provide.
So why aren't more brands using it right now? Is Alexa going to evolve into maybe the next level of Ecotex in the future?
Um, Honestly, we do work also with standards. I think it's a complementary offer. So what we see is that last year for me, what I've seen is there's been a lot of talk about sustainability. I went to trade fairs last year when it was still possible going to trade fairs, and sustainability was everywhere. Every producer, every brand claimed to be sustainable in one or the other way, but they had a very different understanding of what sustainability means. And I think here, what I noticed this year is that it's all about traceability all of a sudden. And this makes it fascinating because they have seen, the industry has recognized that making claims is not enough. You have to be able to prove them. And
Mm-hmm.
here we have a relevant offer.
But why aren't the brands that already using your amazing technologies right now? They should be because they are all asking for traceability. Why aren't they doing it? What is the barrier you thinking?
Um, what we see is we have, a lot of, brands contacting us, and there are different, solutions for traceability. So we see definitely an increasing demand, which is encouraging. But don't forget, sustainability is a journey.
Mm,
So it's not a status quo. So you have to start somewhere. And this is what we are seeing, that a lot of brands and manufacturers are addressing the issue. And there's more to come, which is fantastic.
yeah, that's exciting. That's the exciting part. How and why have consumers' mindset shift in the past few years for your perspective when it comes down to proof, traceability, transparency?
Mm. I think, the climate crisis has made us all more aware of how we consume and, the impact our consumption has. And then, there have been recent reports on, for example, forced labor in the Xinjiang region, or, for example, even in Europe it's happening. Think of, the scandal of forced labor in Leicester in the UK. It's happening, not somewhere far away. This is happening today in Europe, that we talk about, forced labor. And I think this all, made consumers more aware that all of a sudden, they think, okay, this T-shirt I'm wearing, could that be linked to forced labor?
Mm,
And that means that you also, as a consumer, I have to take responsibility in a sense that, I'm asking questions so I can make, an informed and conscious buying decisions.
mm, 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 mm. Is there any particular fiber that Halexa's technology is yet to be able to, I guess, tap onto? Because you mentioned organic cotton previously.
Mhm,
How about spandex? How about nylon or recycled polyester? Is this
mhm,
something that Halexa also are able to chase back into its origin?
mhm. We work with all kinds of fibers. Organic cotton, because there is an interesting situation that there is more organic cotton being sold than actually being produced. So
Oh,
there is kind of an issue that needs to be addressed. And then we also work with cashmere because it's a premium material. But of course, we also work, with also synthetic fibers, man-made fibers, not just natural fibers.
okay, that's wonderful. So how can small brand tap into your solutions? Or right now you only are working with the bigger brands in this material. Like how can small brand be like, hey Alexa, I love your technology so much. Where can I actually find the material that has your technology so I can prove to my customer it has the traceability behind?
Mhm. I think, it's not a question of volume. Obviously, we have small brands. We had, small brands contacting us that want to buy fabric already that is traceable. I mean, here we have to see, what we can offer. We have manufacturers we work with, but then it's very much depending on, what you need as a brand.
Mm,
But the solution itself is so easy to apply, um, also for smaller volumes, for
mm.
example.
Okay. And do they just, let's say, buy the application tools and then these tools somehow apply on the fabric or apply on the yarns? Then you can start proving that to your consumers?
I mean, we've developed strict protocol how the marker should be used. But this can also be, handled according to our protocol and what we do. For example, we've not been able to travel last year due to COVID-19, and we still mark Kashmir in China. So what we did, we set this protocol and the application guideline, and then been present, over video chat, WeChat, for example, to
Mm,
observe and ensure that everything was done correctly.
okay.
But it doesn't need any skilled workers for the application. The marker itself is dispersed in liquid and then sprayed onto the fiber. This
Mhm,
can be done manually, even if we're talking small volumes,
mhm.
but also easily integrated into existing automated processes. For example, when we talk cotton, it can be integrated, for example, at the gin. That's
Right.
where we usually do it. But we could also do it at the farm. For example, the pilot we did for Fashion for Good, there we applied the marker directly at farm level.
So does that mean small brand can come to you and buy some kind of a solution, and this they can put it in a spray and then spray on their actual garment, and they can start tracing from there, or spray on the fabric? Is that applicable, or
I
that's
think
actually too
it's
easy?
theoretically no, it's theoretically applicable. For me, we usually start as asking the brand or the manufacturer what the objective is for traceability. What
Mm,
do they want to prove? Where do they need more transparency? Is it regarding the origin of the raw material, for example? Or do they, for example, have a question mark related to a specific node in the supply chain? I give you one example. I talked to one brand and they said, Tanja, listen, we know all our suppliers. We have a very close relationship, and um, they all adhere to our standards. But there's one specific supplier, and there we are not sure if from time to time he's not buying from another supplier who is not producing according to our standards. So what we would be able to do is then really apply the marker before this specific node and look at this specific node in the supply chain.
mm, mm.
So this can be done too. It's
Okay.
really also, what do you want to get out of traceability? Where do you need transparency? Where do you need, the forensic proof?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what are some of the tips that you can give to brands who might just want to start out a sustainable brand, or who have already run through several seasons of sustainable productions? What are some of the tips that they can be watch out for, or perhaps even implement your technology in the supply chain? What would you recommend to them?
I think, first of all, as I mentioned before, sustainability is a journey. And, brands are in the different phases or along this journey. And most importantly is that they do start a journey.
Yeah.
And then I think, what is important is that they work with the reliable data. First of all, to define the status quo, where are they today?
Mm,
Being able then to identify challenges and issues to address, um, then develop, the steps that are necessary to address these challenges, and then also measure, the progress they are making in their sustainability journey. And for all that, they need transparency and also traceability, because that means working with reliable data that is directly linked to the product. I mean, I gave you before the example with the t-shirt, for example. If you want to claim that this t-shirt is made of 100% organic cotton, you have to be able to prove it, and we can do that because we can detect the marker that we have applied at the farm that produces the organic cotton. And I think this is what is important. And I think sometimes we have also brands that call us, and we talk a lot about sustainability and transparency, and then it's a question, where do we start? And
mm,
usually what we say is we talk a lot about where the big pain points are, or what are the most critical issues for them, and then we start, and then we actually build it up from there.
mm. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, just to sum up, what you were saying is that they have to start the journey already being sustainable. And sustainable, it is a broad term, but at least start using the right materials, starting to measure and figure out what are some of the challenges that they need to overcome so that they can prove themselves. They have the traceabilities and transparency support at the back of their brain, the brand, so on the brain. And then once they identify, is then they will be able to use some measurable steps to actually achieve those goals. And if there are too much of a smaller brand, they can start those journey, but maybe perhaps when they grow bigger, they can start working with companies like yourself and apply the specific DNA marker technology onto
Mhm.
their material to actually prove out all the traceability steps throughout the supply chain. Is there a
And I think
is there a particular like a QR code, something that like through this traceability people they can scan it and then they can see the journey the fiber has been traveling across the world to make into this garment?
mhm. This is an offer actually that this is what we offer. We have developed an ingredient brand that's called Marked and Traced by Haelixa
Mm,
that can be also used by our customers. So they can be included in hang tags, for example, or care labels. FTC is doing that, for example. And
mhm.
then they also include a QR code.
Yeah.
And when you scan it with the phone, this leads you to a website where you have more information about traceability of the specific product. The journey it has taken. So
Yeah.
that's quite interesting. And it's also, I think, interesting from a marketing point of view, also because that is a good starting point for storytelling as well.
Mm.
Um, for example, 2 weeks ago, we had the campaign from Fashion Revolution, Who Made My Fabric? And that was really beautiful because, you saw people holding up and saying, I made your fabric, this board. And all of a sudden, there was a human being, there was a face, there was a story to it. And that makes it so much personal also.
Yeah, fantastic. We love to have you on discussing and sharing the technology with us, Tanya. You have been such an amazing lady to share these technologies and share the know-hows and what are the smaller brand and larger brands they can actually step into being sustainable and also being tracing all the way back in the supply chain. So, your knowledge is actually amazing. So, for anyone who would like to be in touch with Haelixa, what is the best email address and how can they follow up with you guys?
I mean, send an email to us, info@helixa.com, and we will actually reply to you. We'll be in touch with you and more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Fantastic. We will share all your social media handles and connections in our videos later below. And thank you so much for your time, Tanya. And it has been amazing to have you being our guest in here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rina, for having me. All the best.
Thank you.
Bye bye.